I've been using the story graph for over 2 years now. If you don't know what it is, it's a Goodreads alternative where you can track your reading. I primarily use it to track my reading, the reading challenges feature, which helps me track my progress throughout the year, and to just organize my books. However, every time I log on to update my reading, the recommendations are staring me right in the face. I'll be honest, I've never used the recommendations feature. That's why for this reading vlog, I'm going to test it out. Now you're probably asking yourself, Alex, how are you going to do that? Well, I'll show you. So when building my TBR, I could have just went the route of picking the recommendations I was given, but I love to make my reading into a game, and that is why you have all of these themed reading vlogs. And so I decided to use the reading challenges feature, which is my favorite feature of the story graph. I can join reading challenges, it tracks my reading, and it's so much fun to build a TBR that way. The story graph actually has their own reading challenges, and I went with the onboarding challenge. Hello, and welcome to another year of the Storygraph's Onboarding Reading Challenge. Incredibly, this is our 5th year hosting this challenge. The app and website have both come so far since the first one. If you've never taken part in one of our onboarding challenges before, they're designed as a low-pressure way to explore the range of features Storygraph offers. Each prompt will guide you to a different part of the app, including the community page recommendations and reading challenges. The first prompt is to read a book from the 5-star section of one of your similar users. Head to Community, then click Explore under the Similar Users panel. Click around a few of your similar users, visiting their 5-star section on their profiles until you find a book you fancy trying. Now, I did this. I went through and I found somebody that was so similar to me. In their 5-star section, they had one of my favorite books, Icebreaker by A.L. Gracia Day. So I knew it was fate and I had to pick this person's recommendations, and I ended up going with The Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. Next is read a Storygraph recommendation from out of your comfort zone. We revamped our recommendations page, so this prompt is designed to help you explore our new sections. Find a book to read from the out of your comfort zone selection. You never know, you might find a new favorite. I really like this. I think it's so different. I like that it is not like the Goodreads recommendations page. For comparison, here is the Goodreads recommendations page. You have based on your shelf, and I know that people can give you recommendations. Maybe I could do a video where I do this one and just compare them, but you can get recommendations from members, give recommendations, and ask for recommendations. But what's so cool about the story graph is they actually give you curated recommendations. You have based on your survey. I guess when I signed up, I did a survey. I can't remember, but these look like some promising picks. Based on your recent reads, that would be a cool video to do. This looks promising as well. I'm sorry, but I did not like What If It's Us, so who knows if these recommendations are going to be good or not. Contemporary picks, graphic novel picks, thriller picks, young adult picks, middle grade, and out of your comfort zone. Like I've been saying all throughout this video, the story graph is based on your mood. But it will be interesting to see if I agree with the recommendations or not, because Karen M. McManus, I wasn't a big fan of, but I will say I am not somebody who rates books. I don't rate them a star rating, so I wonder if it's different for people that actually star rate books. I would be curious to know that. I stopped doing that a couple years ago because I just don't think that they work for me. They may work for other people, but for me, I don't really see the point in attaching a star rating to a book. It just was not something that was working for me. I basically was thinking too much about the rating and not about the enjoyment of the book or about the book in general. So I stopped doing it, and it's been amazing ever since. So for this prompt, I ended up going with a book that I actually have on my Kindle, You Lost a Lot of Blood by Eric Lacrocca. I have been wanting to read this book. It's a horror, and I actually do like horror, so it's not out of my comfort zone per se, as the cover photo depicts. I think this is going to be pretty gory, and your boy loves slashers, so I'm super excited for this. Next is Reading Challenge Random Number Game. For this prompt, pick a number between 1 to 12. Now go to Reading Challenges and open the category that corresponds to the number you chose. Genres is 1 and nonfiction is 6. Have a browse through the public reading challenges under that category until you find one that catches your eye. Read a book that would fit one of the prompts of the challenge you choose. There's no obligation to join the challenge, of course, but you certainly can if you want to. I love the reading challenge feature of this app. I use it all the time, and I am somebody that has way too many reading challenges that I join, but I love it. I love finishing a book and seeing what challenge it fits. It's my favorite thing. I ended up getting number 4, so I did as it said, and I ended up finding a queer one. I was looking to read some queer books as always, and I wanted to just see if there was any queer centric one, and I found the coolest reading challenge called Queering the Region. It was so interesting because this year in my reading tracker, I have started to track the locations of books that I read. Whatever the setting is, I write it down in my reading tracker, and I want to see how many locations come up and just what I actually read throughout the year. So this was perfect because 1, I can add it to a challenge, and 2, I already would have the locations, and I just think this is so cool. I will link it down below if you also want to join me on this challenge because it is the coolest thing ever. So I will be reading another book that I actually own. I physically own this one. I was sent it years ago. It is Real Queer America, and it is written by a trans author. A transgender reporter's narrative tour through the surprisingly vibrant queer community sprouting up in red states, offering a vision of a stronger, more humane America. And this is for the challenge, a book explicitly about a region or regional identity. And the last challenge is to read a book from your to-be-read pile, starting with the first letter of your name. Hi, I'm Alex, this is Pucksandpaperbacks, and so of course I went with Ace of Spades. I also own this one, so this whole video is pretty much reading my own TBR, which is why I love doing fun videos like this, because it helps me read the books that I actually own and want to pick up. There are 2 other challenges that I am deciding not to do because they're coming soon and I don't have access to them, but once they do, you know I will be doing them. So that is the TBR. Back to me. Hello, editing me here. I want to pop in and tell you about the original creator of this concept, or just the person who started it first, Books of Amber. Her link will be down below if you want to watch her video. I am glad to see that I'm not the only one doing this. So I just wanted to shout her out because I am not the first person to have done this. So definitely go and check out her video. Hello, it's Saturday and I am 79% into With the Fire on High. I just love Elizabeth Acevedo. I don't even have anything to say besides her prose is just phenomenal. Every time I read her work, I am just in awe. She just has a way with words. Her writing is phenomenal and I'm glad I get to read her. I am a little biased because it is set in Philly. I am born and raised from Philadelphia and I always love to read books that are set in Philly. However, I do read a lot that are not centered on the people of color who live there. Philadelphia is a predominantly black city, and I'm just glad that we're actually getting to see a perspective from a teenager who lives there, who is black. In the book, she is Afro-Latina, specifically she is Puerto Rican. I'm just having a good time, and I'm glad I get to read another one of Elizabeth Acevedo's work. I just love her. Honestly, if you haven't read her already, I highly recommend her. I do think that this is going to be my favorite book of hers, which is going to beat out Clap When You Land. That is currently my favorite book of hers, but I think that this might be my new favorite. I'm just loving it so much. I love books that are about food, and I love books that are set in Philly. Since I rekindled my love for reading back in 2013, 2014, I always want to see books that are set in my city because I hadn't for such a long time, and I'm really glad that we're seeing a perspective from a person of color because the city is predominantly black and we should be seeing those stories versus the white people's stories. So I'm really glad that this exists because besides such a fun age, I don't see many books that are set in Philly written and about people of color, especially black people. Our main character Imani is Afro-Latina, specifically Puerto Rican, and she is a teen mother. She got pregnant at 14. She's currently 17 in the book, and I just love this so much. And every time I read YA, I'm always thinking about the audience and thinking about the teenagers that this was written for. As I'm reading, I'm hoping that a teen like Amani is able to read this book and see herself represented. I honestly don't have anything to say besides Elizabeth Acevedo's prose is unmatched. It is amazing. I wish I could highlight the whole entire book, but I can't do that. I'm just really enjoying this, and I will let you know my final thoughts at the end. I don't have anything more to say besides Elizabeth Acevedo was great. I just wanted to update you a little bit. I'm about to hop onto Margaret sprints. I'll link her channel down below. I try to hop on her sprints on Saturdays sometimes since she hasn't invited me. So if you too like to pop into reading sprints and you want to see my face, I will link her down below. I do have some chores to get done today, so I'll be listening to the audiobook and I'll let you know my final thoughts once I'm finished. It's been about over an hour and I finished up with the Fire on High just a few minutes ago. I'm still on sprints and I enjoyed it so much. I have found so many great books through the first 2 months of the year, so I feel a good reading year coming my way. I just feel so grateful to be able to read her work. Elizabeth Acevedo's prose is unmatched. It's just so incredible, and I feel like I shouldn't be able to read it for the price of $17. I feel like it should be more, because there's no way that I can read this for $17. It feels like a bargain. I love her book so much, and this one was no different. Like I've said, I really enjoyed that it was set in Philly, and I was curious because she is not from Philadelphia. I would love to know in the comments, do you read the acknowledgements? I know a lot of readers who don't, but I am the reader that needs to know everything about the book and why somebody wrote it, and the acknowledgements did give me that because there's no author's note, but she thanks people that gave her insight on children, specifically toddlers, and that she got to teach a summer school session, I believe it said, at Frankfurt High School in Philly. And so that is how she got the inspiration for this book. It says, I want to give a special thanks to Frankfurt High School in Philadelphia, which allowed me the privilege of teaching summer school to their seniors in 2010. Although I did not know it then, that was the first seed of this story. My heartfelt appreciation goes out to Mr. Joseph Bradbury, who in 2017 allowed me to visit his class and kitchen so I could observe his culinary arts students in action. And I think that that's great. So she does have some like South Jersey roots, but it's mainly, I think, through her marriage, and I just think that it's cool. I love seeing Philly represented, and especially, like I've said earlier, I like seeing the people that live there who deserve to have the stories written about them exist. I'm glad that this book exists. Again, I just think this book is so important, and every time I read YA, I hope that the kids that this is written for end up getting it, because Amani's story is very important. Just being a Afro-Latina girl who is a teen mother, and there's a lot of things in the book where she talks about, or you see interactions with adults who think that she is a know-it-all, and I just enjoyed her perspective. There's a scene where one of her teachers is like, oh, you should go to college, and she's like, you don't understand my circumstances. Like, I am not a normal kid where I can just be like, sure, I'll go to college. She's like, I would rather save up money for my child's college and not think about my future. So her character development was really awesome. In that scene particularly, there is a younger teacher that tells her that, and she says she's probably in her 30s and she doesn't have any kids, so she's like, she does not even understand what I'm going through. I just love Elizabeth Acevedo, and I hope that this video convinced you to pick her up because she's incredible. Her work is awesome, and I did listen to the audiobook and she narrated it. When I listened to the Poet X, that also was narrated by her, and I just thought that this was great, and I don't really have much more to say. That is it. I enjoyed it, and it's gonna be my best book of 2024, so I am doing very good this year for reading. Next up is You've Lost a Lot of Blood by Lacrocca. Changing up the genres so much. This is only 210 pages, so I will start it next on sprints. See you later. Hello, it's Monday, February 19th, and the Storygraph is currently winning with the recommendations. I am still reading You've Lost a Lot of Blood by Lacrocca. I desperately wish that I could devour it in one sitting, but I don't have time to do that right now. So I am cherishing what time I have to actually read it, but the verdict is I'm loving it. I am so addicted to it. I just think it's genius. I love books that have multimedia and different formats in the book, and this we have transcripts. There's a letter from the editor, and there's also a novella within this novella called You've Lost a Lot of Blood, and honestly I am more hooked into that story than I am to the actual story about this serial killer who is killing other men. I can't stop thinking about the book I read back in October, Criminal Intentions by Cole McCade. This is a whole series, and it is like Criminal Minds, but it's queer. And if you don't want to read a horror, I highly recommend this one. I do believe that that one is a little bit gory, but if you want more of like a mystery thriller that is like Criminal Minds, I highly recommend that book, and I will leave my vlog up above if you want to know more information. So I just wanted to pop in and talk about this book because I am loving it. Despite the fact it was in the out of your comfort zone category, this is definitely out of my comfort zone, but I think that horror might be my genre this year, and I'm loving that. So I'm gonna go start the day. I am going to Best Buy later because I put in an order for some electronics that I needed. Yesterday I made a big order for some electronics, including a new camera. I've had this camera for almost as long as I've been doing booktube, so I'd have to see when I bought this. I think I got it in December for Christmas one year, so this may be 9 or 10 years old, and it is held out beautifully, but I'm having some issues with it, so I ordered a new camera, so I'll be having an upgrade in a couple weeks. But I also had to order an iPad for my job, so that's what I'm going to be doing today, is heading over to Best Buy and grabbing that. I'm going to get started with my day, and I will be back once I have finished You've Lost a Lot of Blood. I literally just finished You've Lost a Lot of Blood by Lacrocca, and I think I might have a book hangover. I devoured that book. I love the feeling of a book being constantly on my mind, the only thing I want to do, so I'm glad that I was able to finish it up. But I feel like I didn't get a lot of closure with the novella part. The book as a whole is about Martyr Black, who is a serial killer. He is also gay, and you are learning about him throughout this novella through transcripts between him and his partner and poems, as well as there's a letter from the editor at the beginning and the end. And then for major inception, there is a novella inside the novella about a girl named Tasman and her brother Presley. Tasman is assigned to work on a video game, and her and her brother Presley end up at this castle type place, and there is some shit that's going down. And the video game is called You've Lost a Lot of Blood. Big trigger warning for body horror. I don't advise this book if you cannot read horror because it's a horror. However, I read some reviews where people said that it wasn't disturbing enough, and I mean, I've read Mexican Gothic, which was super disturbing, so I don't think it was on that level for me, but if you can picture a book in your head like a movie, this is going to have a lot of vivid scenes for you. There's a lot that goes on. My camera died and I am too cozy to change my battery, so here is my iPhone cam. I wish that I had more of the novella. I didn't really care much for the serial killer stuff. I was way more invested in the novella. Honestly, it kind of disappointed me at the end because it is kind of an ambiguous ending, which I had a feeling was going to happen because every time I get invested into a horror or thriller book, this always happens to me, which might be why I just avoid it. Like, it's fine to be able to speculate in my head, and maybe it was a fine ending, but I was so invested in that novella that I just wanted either like a happy ending or just a full circle moment, just something to wrap it up, because the ending just didn't give me enough, which is so disappointing. But I will say that this is still a win for the Storygraph. It was out of my comfort zone. I don't read body horror that much, but I enjoyed it. I wasn't that disturbed. There were some points where I was like, oh my god, this is wild. And the writing itself was awesome. I think the prose was great. And the characters did have some banter between Ambrose and Martyr. Ambrose is Martyr's partner, and I liked the multimedia. I don't think that this was horrible. Like I said, I had a good time, but the end just was not enough for me. However, I would love to see this as a film. I even looked up to see if there's any rights. I don't see anything, but I'm gonna look up further, and I'll let you know if there actually is. Eric Lacrocca's storytelling is really good, so I will be reading more of their work, and I am excited to read more of it. I'm really glad it's a novella, and I will say that it's good that this was really fast-paced and I was craving it, because I feel like some novellas are kind of slow and it takes me longer to get through them, but not for this one. I had a really good time with this, despite the ending. So I recommend this if you want a queer horror that's short and has an ambiguous ending, and you like body horror. If you don't like any of those things, then this book is not for you, because there's a lot of body horror and it is described heavily, especially like the serial killer stuff. There's a lot of murder, so if you don't want to read about murder, then I don't recommend this book. It's a lot, but I had a great time despite the ending. I feel like I'm gonna keep thinking about how I wish that the ending wasn't what it was, but I still recommend it. I understand why it's hyped on BookTube, and while I was reading it, I was like, wait, should I start reading the hyped books? Like, are people actually right about these things? Because I'm just not somebody that gives into hype. Like, you would have to recommend me a book about 10 times for me to actually read it. So, like, I like watching the videos of people talk about these books, but I don't think there's something that I would immediately pick up. But maybe I'm a changed man now, and I will be reading more horror. I like horror, obviously. I have read some horror in my day that I've really enjoyed. So that is it for my thoughts on this book. Next up is a queer nonfiction, which is Real Queer America, and I'm going to try to get the audiobook because I realized I have a 4-book TBR in this video, and I usually don't do that because I actually tried to make this vlog a week long, and that did not pan out for me. That's why this video is just whenever I have the time. So next up is Real Queer America, and I'm excited to read it. The author is trans, and she also wrote this book, which I've seen everywhere, and I didn't even realize it was her. New month, new camera. I'm coming at you from my Nikon Z30. I have not gotten a new camera since I started this channel back in 2014. When I first started, I was using my brother's camera. I would just steal it and film videos, so the fact that I have a new camera is pretty sweet. I am excited to use this. It is smaller than my Canon. I will show you here, and maybe I'll talk about it in this video, but I wanted to update you because I'm about to hop onto Sprints and read more of Real Queer America. I have been so busy in February with my job. I'm a freelance book publicist, and in February I was slammed. I'm surprised I even got a video out. I'm proud of myself that I did, but I was so busy and I don't know what's going to happen from here on out, how my content is going to work, but I hope that this video sees the light of day. Today is Saturday, which I'm so happy about. I just got some chores done, and I am going to continue to read Real Queer America while I hop onto Margaret's Sprints. I just haven't been reading that much. Honestly, work has been busy, but honestly, there's been so much going on that I mentally wasn't feeling okay and was not feeling okay enough to read a book like this. I always say this, but reading trans books is hard for me sometimes, especially nonfiction, and the fact that we ended up losing a trans kid in February, this was really hard to pick up. Like, this was filled with some trans joy because you're seeing the advocates in red states, but it is definitely a hard read, especially at this time. But this book came out in 2019, and it is still relatable today, showing that the work still has to be done. So far, I do recommend this. Let me see how many pages I am. I am 116 pages in. I am only 36% in, so I would like to read a little bit more, but I'm going to hop on to sprints, and I will see you later.
The emerging truth is that LGBT people have been building beautiful lives away from the coasts for years in places like Johnson City. Progressive laws and policies may help queer people thrive, but they are not, on a gut level, what keeps us going. Friendship is our fuel. You could re-ban same-sex marriage in Tennessee and make it illegal for me to use the women's restroom here, but I would still probably choose it over New York. I'd be a lawbreaker, sure, but at least I would have fresh air to breathe and pleasant company to share it with. Because love is what does the heavy lifting for queer survival. It may not be all you need, as the Beatles sang, or as Ewan McGregor once crooned over Baz Luhrmann's computer-generated Paris, but it's pretty damn close.
Hello, today is March 16th and I just finished up Real Queer America. I don't have much more to say than I really enjoyed it. I think that this is a must read, especially now. It is very relevant today as we have an uptick in anti-LGBT bills and trans bills, as well as the book banning. So I highly recommend this. I'm really glad that I got to read it. It just focuses on the queer and trans people in red states and talks about the places, and I had a really good time. I also loved the audiobook, which I turned on during the middle of this because I was like, I just need to get this finished because this video is going way too long. I really wanted to get this finished and I've been enjoying reading it, so I popped on the audiobook from Hoopla, and it is read by the author. They also read the acknowledgements, which I never see, and every audiobook needs to do that because I love the acknowledgements, I love the author's note, and they never read them. So thank you, Samantha, for reading your acknowledgements. I really appreciate it. I highlighted and tabbed this so much. I seriously could have highlighted the whole entire book because I loved the writing and I just loved everything she had to say. So I want to read you this passage from chapter 7, Going Home, and it's her just reflecting, and I feel like this sums up the whole point of this book. This entire time that I have been gathering the stories of people who stayed in the places I left behind, I have been trying to answer a personal question too. Why didn't I stay? Why don't I stay now? For 6 weeks, I have traveled the country meeting queer people who pour their lives into a place, be it Provo or Houston, Bloomington or Jackson. I have felt almost parasitic, like a transsexual vampire feeding off attachments to homes that I wish were my own. At many points along the way, I have wanted to unpack my suitcase and integrate myself into their routines, but that wouldn't feel right either. None of these places are mine. I feel like that sums up the whole book. That she went to all these places that she had been to. I feel like it's kind of like checking up on the places, but I just loved being introduced to new queer spaces and queer people. I really loved this, and I will read more of Samantha Allen's work. I know she said she was exhausted from this road trip, and road trips are a lot, but I need a sequel. I would love to have a sequel of this where she's going to more red states and just continuing on. She ends up going to Texas, Mississippi, Indiana, Utah, and I feel like that's it. I might be missing someone, but I would like to have more. She does live in Florida, and she doesn't really talk about Florida that much because she's from New Jersey, and I would love to hear more about that, especially because Florida is probably one of the biggest states at the moment that are enacting anti-LGBT laws and book banning. If you want to know more about the book banning, I would love for you to follow my friend Rachel if you don't already. Reads with Rachel. I'll have her link down below because she has been talking a lot about book banning as a parent in Florida, and she's been going to the school board. She has children of her own, and so she is trying to protect them, and I just love her so much. She's the best, so definitely go and follow her if you haven't and you just want to know more about the book banning. I will link some videos down below because I believe Ashley from Bookish was talked about it as well. As always, you can check my description for resources. I always put resources in my description, especially to end the Israeli apartheid in Palestine. And during the filming of this video, which is why it took so long for me to read this, is because there were and always are trans deaths, and recently it was a transgender child next Benedict and a trans man, Chevy, and I am just devastated to hear about this. And as a trans man, our violence are not reported as much. They are definitely a thing. Chevy was murdered, and a lot of people are under the impression, and I have been told this by people, that trans men don't experience violence, and that is bullshit. We do. We do. Most of the time it's not reported because they're stealth, or like I said, nobody shares about it. So I would love for you to share about both Nex and Chevy because it's really important to talk about these things as we are living in a anti-LGBT world. I would love that. If you could do one thing for me, it's that. I will have all of the links down below if there's a GoFundMe and things like that. It sucks. It really sucks to see this happen. That's it on Real Queer America. Really enjoyed it, and if you want to purchase it, I will have a link down below. It's an affiliate link. It's no extra cost to you, but if you want to help support the channel, that is one of the best ways, and by engaging with this video. Now I'm gonna get to Ace of Spades. I will update you once I'm at the halfway point, or I just have something to update. I'm not really sure what this book is about. I do know it's queer. It is set in an academic setting. I don't want to say it's dark academia because I'm not sure. I know it has an academic setting, and it is beloved, so I'm really excited to read it.
I think back to the file labeled murderer. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. She stands, shutting the computer down. I don't know why, or how, but she pauses, lowering her voice now. I think someone is trying to get us expelled.
Y'all, I have been reading Ace of Spades, and why did no one tell me how incredible this book was? I remember it being popular on BookTube, but nobody talked about how incredible it was. I remember hearing people say they liked it, and maybe it was one of their favorite books of the year or something, but nobody talked about how good it was. This is phenomenal, and I am only 43% in. I have been reading in tandem with the audiobook. I really love the audiobook, and I just got off of some sprints over on Margaret's channel at The Word Nerd. I went into that sprint wanting to read a book on my Kindle, but I had some things to do, so I was like, why don't I just throw in the audiobook? Because I am hooked. This is an academic thriller. We're following two black teenagers, Devon and Chiamaka, and they were chosen to be senior prefects. Chiamaka has been getting this role for a long time now, but Devon is like, there's something up because I would never get this. Then in comes Aces, which is like the Pretty Little Liars A situation, where there is an anonymous texter who is texting secrets, and all I can think about is Karen and McManus could never. I've been reading YA thrillers more recently since I did the Goodreads Choice Awards, and you've probably heard me talk about Promise Boys by Nick Brooks, and I think that that is a perfect comp title for this. So if you've read this, I highly recommend Promise Boys. It was my favorite book of the year in 2023. I will have that video linked up above if you missed it. On Sprints, I was talking about this vlog and video concept, and we started talking about Goodreads versus Storygraph and how cool of an idea that that would be for a video to compare both. And I was talking about how I don't know if the Storygraph's recommendations are good or if it's just me picking the books, because it's not like they're giving me one recommendation. I am just getting the recommendation myself and curating this vlog based on my interest. And so I'm like, is it my interest? Am I just good at picking books for myself, or is it Storygraph? Like, the Storygraph is giving and then I'm picking the book. So I would be interested to do a Goodreads alternative of this video, so if you would like to see that, giving this video a thumbs up and letting me know in the comments will really help, because then I can get started doing that video. I just think it would be so interesting. But for the book, I'm loving it. I am so glad I have a copy of it, and I can't wait to read more of it because it is so good. It is so thrilling. If you watched my Goodreads video back in December, I read the One of Us is Lying trilogy and talk about my problems I had with it, so I will also link that up above and in the description if you're interested in watching it. It's like an hour long, so if you have the time, definitely go and watch that. It was a fun time. I had so many problems with it because it is this type of trope where there is an anonymous person who is sharing information about the kids at the school, and I just feel like this book does it better. And this is her debut, which is wild. I just think that this is incredible. So I know I'm only 43% in, but I would like to thank everybody who recommended this book over the years because it's so good. This book did come out in 2021, and I was saying on Sprints how it's still new, but I really think it's underhyped still. I think it is so underrated, and I am loving it. Anyway, I just wanted to catch you up on Ace of Spades. Loving it, and we'll be recording more of my reaction as I read because I heard that it gets even wilder. But I am actually going to watch some hockey, so I will be back once I have something to say about the book. But for now, it is hockey time. Hello, it is March 25th. Yesterday, I spent the whole entire day finishing up Ace of Spades, and I can't wait to tell you about it because I loved it. This was phenomenal. I cannot believe that this is a debut, and I also cannot believe it took me this long to read this. Oh my god, it is incredible. I think it is one of the best YA thrillers, and everybody needs to read it if they haven't. Oh my god, I loved this so much. It is a thriller, but I will say it has some horror elements because this shit is scary. This is a very dark story. This is a dual perspective following two black teens, Chiamaka and Devon. When Devon is given senior prefect along with Chiamaka, he starts becoming suspicious. Chiamaka has always been a prefect, so that isn't weird. But when he hears his name, he starts to suspect something is going on. And that is how the story is set up. In Pretty Little Liar fashion, some anonymous texter called Aces starts texting everybody in the school the deep dark secrets of Chiamaka and Devon. And that is where shit gets weird. If it wasn't weird before, this is an all-time weird. Then that's where it goes. Chiamaka and Devon are like, we have to figure this out, because they start to realize that they are the only people being talked about. I just thought this was incredible. The writing was great, and the organization of the story, the way it was led up, the plot twist, I thought it was fantastic. I have no notes. I think that this was a perfect YA debut, and I cannot wait to read more from this author. Though I do want to point out, this is a very heavy book. There is queer joy, and there is a happy ending, which the author intended. She talks about this in her author's note. She says she wanted to explore and talk about systemic racism in private institutions. Here we have a fictionalized private academy, Nevis, and it is just wild and scary, honestly, but it is super thrilling, especially because it shows that Black kids cannot trust adults. They can't trust anybody, and that is why I think Promise Boys is a perfect comp title, because they both talk about the same thing. Like I said, I love this so much, and do look out for the trigger warnings. Like I said, this is very dark, though it does have queer joy, and we also have a happy ending, and the author says in her author's note that that is what she intended. I also really liked the epilogue. I was happy that we had one, and I liked the way it ended. It just felt perfect. Like, I don't have any notes. There wasn't anything that wasn't answered for me. And also, the audiobook did read the acknowledgements and the author's note, which I really enjoyed. So this is the second audiobook I've read that they've actually read the author's note and the acknowledgements. I'll read you a part of her author's note that says, "This novel deals with a lot of important topics and themes such as classism, racism, and homophobia. It is also allegorical in many ways, which I hope you pick up on as you read. But one thing I was adamant on was keeping the setting as neutral as possible. With stories, it is so hard to ground readers without specifying a city or neighborhood. And so while there are mentions of places that are vaguely familiar, the story is meant to have no concrete ties to one place. I want people to read this book and not see the issues discussed as something that only affects some, but see that anti-Blackness is in fact a global issue, one that can't be diminished or pinned on one country or group. I hope that in reading this story you see that despite the darkness we are plagued with, which often feels inescapable, that not only are happy endings possible for Black people, but that we deserve them." This was just so great. I loved it so much, and I will always say this when I read YA, I'm like a broken record at this point, but I just hope that this gets to the audience of teens that can see themselves in books like this, and I'm just so glad that books like this exist, and that we're getting so many books where kids are able to see themselves, and that is why this book banning that's going on is so important to challenge and also follow, because one, fuck censorship, and also the kids that need these books the most won't get them. Again, so glad I got to read this, and do look out for the trigger warnings because, like I said, this is so dark, and as the author's note says, it does have liberation and joy, but it is very dark and does talk about classism, homophobia, racism. I'll make sure to put on the screen the trigger warnings that I picked up on, and if there's any more, I'll add those as well. Now let's recap. Can I trust the StoryGraph recommendations? If it's not obvious, yes. I think that these were great. Now, like I've said, I can't compare them to another recommendation service. This is just me going off of the StoryGraph and doing an experiment for this video. I think that I got a lot of great recommendations, and it looked like it was able to cater to me personally. So I will do a Goodreads video at some point like this, because it would be interesting to see the difference. Is Goodreads better at recommendations, or is the StoryGraph better? Because right now I'm thinking the StoryGraph is better. I loved how curated to my taste this was, and I was able to pick books that I already had, which was great, because sometimes I feel like on Goodreads it's not like that. It's books that I've never heard of before. So I am glad I was able to pick books that I already owned. That was nice. But I ended up getting a lot of great books. Now let's review. I'm here on the StoryGraph's Onboarding Reading Challenge. First was to read a book from a 5-star section of one of your similar users, and I read With the Fire on High, which I absolutely loved, so 1 star for that. Read a StoryGraph recommendation from Out of Your Comfort Zone. I read You've Lost a Lot of Blood by Lacrocca, which I had such a fun time reading and was literally addicted to, but the ending still, I can't stop thinking about that ending. I was so unsatisfied. So I did enjoy the book, but I'll give it like a half star, I guess, for that. 3, reading challenge random number game, where I ended up finding the reading challenge Queering the Region. I read Real Queer America, which I absolutely loved, so star for that. And last, read a book from your 2 red piles starting with the first letter of your name, and that is where Ace of Spades comes in, and another star is added to the board. Totaling, so the final result is a 3.5 star, which I think is pretty good. I found a lot of great books, so I would love to know from you, have you tried out the recommendations on the story graph? Has this video inspired you to do so? I would love to know. And my story graph link is down below if you want to follow me there. And that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I had so much fun with this, even though it took way longer than I expected. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Alex. Thanks for stopping by and watching to the end of this video. I really appreciate it. On my channel, I talk all about queer and trans books, so if you're into that kind of thing, feel free to hit subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, drop a like. It really helps out my channel when you do so, so thanks if you do. And if you want to buy any of the books that I talked about, my affiliate links are down below. There are no extra cost to you, but they will help support this channel. Thank you again for watching, and now I'm on to the next vlog where I'm gonna have somebody else pick my TBR. Bye.